Merlin Nielsen has lived on this Seward County farm for over 20 years, and has farmed and ranched on it full-time since retiring as an animal science professor at UNL. His 2020 property tax bill for his Seward property, and another smaller one in the Sandhills, is higher than many Nebraskans make in a year.
About $51,000 a year.
Nielsen is one of thousands of Nebraska ag producers that have the burden of funding their local school districts. Of that $51,000 Nielsen pays, over $36,000 goes to schools. Of that pot of money for education, less than $4,000 of it is paid for his home, with over $32,000 paid on his land and ag buildings.
And everybody thinks, in agriculture you got to be making so much money you can pay for it. Not true.
He's not alone. A report done by Creighton economist Ernie Goss in 2019 shows that from a 7-year time span, the percent of Nebraskans' incomes for payments on their home and business property taxes remained stable at around 3 to 4%. But tax payments on their ag land skyrocketed to more than 12 times what Nebraskans paid on their homes.
It shocks you off your shoes when you look at the data.
The reason they're so high is Nebraska needs the money to fund public schools. That same Goss report shows that on average, Midwestern states use property taxes to fund about 35% of public schools' total revenues. But in Nebraska, public school revenues are funded about 55% from property taxes. That's because the majority of public schools only get a small amount of money from the state to fund education, with the rest coming from county property taxes. That includes Douglas County West Community Schools.
Really consistently get right around 10%. So we do get some state aid.
Dr. Melissa Polonczyk is superintendent of DC West, which, as she mentioned, gets a small portion of their budget from state aid. This compares to Omaha Public Schools, which receives around half of their revenues from state aid.
That's really how the system was developed, is to not necessarily be equal, but be fair.
While property taxpayers pay the majority of the DC West budget, the district has helped them out, cutting the property tax rate over the last 2 years.
But we really feel like we have been very fair to our taxpayers.
So while many school districts across the state are tightening their belts, property taxes continue to go up. Nielsen, who is with activist group Fair Nebraska, has ideas. One would be for the large chunk of money that exclusively goes to schools to tax residential homes and apartments, but leave businesses and ag land with no property tax payments to schools.
The only way I can see we can balance those when it comes to taxation for schools is to tax only residential property.
This would leave a gap of hundreds of millions of dollars. So it would also include evaluating the state's sales tax rate.
I believe the ability to change our sales tax system is our largest opportunity for change.
Nielsen wants to raise Nebraska's sales tax, which currently sits at 5.5%, while adding sales tax to items and services currently exempt, like groceries, plumbing, haircuts, and car repair. While Polonczyk is leaving it to the experts on policy, she does believe the state should carry more of the load.
Are we putting enough state resources to our local school districts? It would alleviate the taxpayer. So property taxes would decrease.
Now these have been tried and have failed in the unicameral in the past, with Governor Pete Ricketts fighting what he believes to be tax hikes every step of the way. And so the legislature has only been able to make modest fixes, like adding to the property tax credit relief fund and throwing in some extra tax credits, which Nielsen calls a Band-Aid that doesn't fix the larger problem.
It's a tyranny of the status quo. We just can't seem to budge off of what we did last year to do the same thing next year.
Polonczyk is fine with change, as long as she can give a quality education to her students.
Anything that might rearrange our funding, but still fund us at a consistent level, then we're going to be supportive of that.
Until that happens, Nielsen will keep tending to his cattle, corn, and soybeans, and peacefully fighting for change in Lincoln.
I'm just as optimistic as I can be.
John Kipper, 3 News Now.